It was the summer of 2016 in the Northern Hemisphere. I was traveling with my best friend Joan, who at the time was living in Canada. We agreed to meet in London to travel through Europe. From London, we flew to Lisboa, then to Madrid, then to Barcelona. Up to that point, I thought that our European sojourn was undoubtedly awesome. The magnificence of culture and the intricacies of architecture were absolutely gorgeous. From Barcelona, the next logical step was Paris. As soon as we arrived at the aéroport Charles de Gaulle, I couldn't contain my excitement. I mean, who wouldn't be? Paris is not named the city of love and the city of light for no reason. I remember being so engrossed with the idea that I would finally see the backdrop of some of my favorite films before sunset and La Vie en Rose. I remember telling myself that I would finally realize my Parisian dream of drinking wine and eating fromage while people watching along the River Seine. From the airport, we took the bus to take us to the city center. We arrived at around 5 p.m. During rush hour Paris, our series of unfortunate blunders started. Carrying our heavy suitcases, we tried to find a taxi to take us to our bed and breakfast. To no avail. Finding a taxi in Paris is like finding a needle in the haystack. Because everyone uses the subway or le metro, the taxis are few and far between. Thinking that we were equipped with the expertise of the English language, the idea that language barrier can be an issue in the world's most visited city did not cross our minds. How absurd of us to think that we would survive France equipped with a very limited vocabulary comprised mostly of bonjour and merci beaucoup. After gorging our expensive international roaming international data to access Google Translate, we finally found the suitable metro. As soon as we got there, we realized that it was closed because there was an ongoing industrial strike somewhere and that the passengers had to be redirected to another station close to l'Arc de Triomphe in Le Boulevard de Champs-Élysées. The distance was only about a kilometer, but we hardly needed to walk. Amidst the Parisian humidity, the plethora of tourists and the throng of locals all wanting to get to their intended destinations were sufficient force to move us. Most of the time forward, but sometimes sidewards and sometimes backwards. After all the pushing and the shoving from people who seemed to did not understand the value of personal space, we found the correct station. When we got there, however, we realized that the trip was very long and we were getting hungry, so we decided to eat first. Despite the stresses of that day, I was getting hopeful. After all, Paris is the mother of refined taste and the food capital of the world, right? Right. But at that moment, not as much. For about an hour, we tried to look for a restaurant, but we couldn't find one. Sadly for us, most Parisian food establishments close after lunch and do not open until around 8 p.m. But we found a place. The only place open, in fact, from where we originally came from, me, Australia, and Joan, Canada. We had to travel to the other side of the world to eat at Le McDonald's. When we got to our accommodation, I thought to myself, this was not the Paris that I expected. I was overwhelmed, but not in a positive way. Later that day, I found out that there is actually a psychological condition called Le Syndrome de Paris, or the Paris Syndrome, experienced by tourists when the city of love does not live up to their romantic expectations. It is a case of culture shock where people can experience sweating, dizziness, and anxiety all because of their over-romanticized expectations of Paris as the city of love, glamour, and high fashion. We human beings have the tendency to glorify things we shouldn't, sometimes beyond the realm of reason. When we expect something so much and we find out later on that they were not exactly what we thought they were gonna be, it can be shattering. From a job title we thought we wanted, to a relationship we thought we hoped, to a food we thought we craved. These can all be disappointments if the expectations do not meet reality. Joan and I got over our initial disappointment quickly and chose to brush the negativity aside and continued with our trip. The next day was so much better. We were amazed by Le Musée du Louvre, and we were in awe as we stared at the museum's pièce de résistance, the Mona Lisa. We took our push bikes to the quaint and quirky streets of Paris, and at sunset we saw before our eyes as the La Tour Eiffel lit up, and it was a sight to behold. Our newfound appreciation was not because of the aesthetic beauty of Paris, it was more so because of the change of expectation. We stopped imagining Paris to be what we wanted it to be and started appreciating it for what it truly is. With a change of perspective, we discovered that despite its imperfections, Paris est magnifique. The friendly people, the intelligent conversations, the appreciation for the culture and the arts, the amazing food, and just appreciating les joies de vivre. That life can be truly beautiful if we accept it for what it is. The Paris that we experienced was not the Paris in the movies, but it was so much better. Because even though it was imperfect, it was absolutely real. Thank you.